Hello everyone, today I'm going to talk about how the recommender system keeps customers fascinated. Before diving into, let me introduce myself. My name is Karin. I have worked as a marketer for 2 years. While I have worked as a marketer, I have been always interested in the recommender system because I believe that if the suppliers can provide what customers really want to get at the right timing, customers keep using the service. So I thought this is a good opportunity to dive into this topic. This is the table of contents for today. First, I will talk about what the recommender system is. In this section, I will introduce the recommender system using some examples. Second, I will talk about the reasons why the recommender system was devised. Third, I will talk about how the recommender system works. Lastly, I will introduce real-world examples. In this section, I am going to talk about Netflix case. So what is the recommender system? Have you ever experienced keep watching YouTube because it keeps recommending the video you might love to watch? Or have you ever bought something because Amazon recommends you? I think many people have this kind of experience before, and the recommender system is inseparable from our lives. So let's take a look at some examples. This is my user interface for Amazon.com. Since I have bought books which are related to marketing, Amazon.com recommends me these books based on my previous order. Also, if I check each book, Amazon shows me several books which are checked by customers who have similarity with me. This is the interface for my Netflix account. Netflix shows me the ranking in Japan and the list I added to my favorite list before. In Amazon's example, I show the recommender system which is based on user previous behavior, but in the case of ranking, this is not based on users' behavior. Netflix also shows us a rating or matching with user. This is the example of the recommender system which is based on users' behavior. Lastly, I will introduce Apple Music. Apple Music creates a music list for me based on the music which I have listened to. This is also an example of ranking. Apple Music shows us the ranking of each city so we can check popular songs, not only the place we live, but also other places. The recommender system helps users to identify worthwhile products or services for them from several options. So as we have seen, there are two kinds of recommender system. The one is personalized recommendation. It is based on user profiles, searching, and behavior. So it recommends similar items which the user bought, watched, or listened to before. The other one is a non-personalized recommendation. It shows items for all users such as ranking and new items. Next, I'd like to talk about the reasons why the recommender system was devised. As we have seen, we are surrounded by the recommender system in daily life. But why was it devised? There are basically two reasons why the recommender system was devised. First, large amounts of data are constantly being generated today. Because of the development of information technology, we are able to split information easily. For example, many people are familiar with Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We can easily post feelings, photos, the things we like to share, and so on. Second, we can easily get access to information because the information is delivered rapidly. For these reasons, many people might have experienced that it is difficult to find the information we really want, or we do not know how to search. Even if there are enough resources, we cannot identify worthwhile information. This is called information overload. Being able to generate large amount of information and get access to a lot of information easily improves our lives. But at the same time, I think it makes it difficult to make the right decision because we have too many options, so we want to ask someone for suggestions. To solve these problems, a recommender system was devised. The recommender system helps us identify worthwhile items from a lot of options. So next, I will talk about how the recommender system works in this section. As we have seen, there are basically two kinds of recommender systems. One is a personalized recommender systems, and the other is a non-personalized recommender system. In this section, I will focus on personalized recommender system and introduce how companies retrieve the data and predict users' preferences. Companies need to retrieve data from users to make personalized recommendation, and there are two ways of getting data to recommend. One is explicit feedback. In this way, companies get data by asking users if they like or not through surveys, reviews, interviews, and so on. The other way is implicit feedback. Companies get data based on users' behaviors such as purchase history, watching history, reading history, and so on. Companies must ask users to provide their rating for items to get explicit feedback. Once they get data, they are able to know how relevant or similar an item is to users' preferences. However, it is not easy to collect explicit feedback from users because companies need to require users to participate directly. And if users do not feel like it is worth it to do it, companies cannot collect data. That is why there are different ways to collect data, such as rating, how users like or not using a numeric scale, like or dislike functionality, and so on. On the other hand, users are not required to participate, such as review and scoring when companies collect implicit feedback. So it is easier to collect data than explicit feedback. Once companies implement functionality to track users' preference by monitoring the performance actions, such as how long users stayed on the web page, which items users clicked, and which items users purchased. However, it does not always mean that users prefer or not when users stay on the page long time or click items, because it happens often they mistakenly do these things. So as I mentioned, implicit feedback is easier to collect data than explicit feedback. But the aspects of accuracy, implicit feedback do not always reflect users' preference correctly, because users mistakenly clicked item, forget to close pages, or purchase items which is asked by someone. So explicit feedback is more accurate than implicit feedback. Also, the aspect of distinguish and evaluated from upload. Explicit feedback are more clear than implicit feedback because it requires users to participate. But items or content are regarded that users are uploaded if users are not active. User recognition means that users recognize when and how users' preference data is collected. So users easily accept when they are recommended items which are similar or relevant to their preference when they give explicit feedback. However, users do not know when and how implicit feedback is collected. So users might feel that they are recommended items for no reason. After companies collect the data from users, they predict users' preferences. There are basically two ways of predicting. One is content-based filtering system. It is based on the description of item and record of the user's preferences. The other one is based on users who have similarity with a user. So let's take a look one by one. So let's say we are owners of an online streaming services and have a customer who is a 25 years old woman and she loves to watch musical movies. Also, her favorite actress is Emma Stone. If we recommend item with content, we differentiate her preference based on her previous behavior and her profiles such as gender, age, job, and where she lives, and so on. So since she loves musical movie and Emma Stone, we can recommend La La Land, also Greatest Showman, or It's Not Musical movie but She Loves Emma Stone, we can also recommend The Help, for instance. If we use content-based filtering system, we attempt to guess what the user may like based on the user's activities. So we always predict users' preferences based on users and item interactions where users and item representation are given. The other way is collaborative filtering system. While content-based filtering methods reference the interaction between users and items, collaborative filtering system reference users who have similarity with a user. So let's imagine again we are owners of an online streaming service. We have a customer who likes the movie A and C but does not like movie B. We reference users who have similar preferences to this user. Then we recommend this user another movie which is watched by users who have similar preferences. The assumption of this approach is that people who have liked an item in the past will also like the same in the future. This method is applied to many famous services such as Netflix, Amazon.com, YouTube, Spotify, and so on. So we have seen what the recommender system is, why it was devised, and how it works so far. In the next section, I would like to introduce real-world examples. In this section, I will introduce the recommender system on Netflix because Netflix is known as one of the famous companies of net recommender system. Also, there is an interesting fact that over 80% of what people watch comes from Netflix recommendations. This is impressive, isn't it? We can recognize how the recommender system is important to Netflix. Before diving into examples, let me introduce the history of Netflix briefly. Netflix was founded by Hastings and Randolph in 1997. They had an idea to rent DVDs by mail. They tested the concept by themselves by mailing themselves a DVD. The DVD arrived intact and the idea for Netflix was born. Then in 1998, the first DVD rental and sales site Netflix was launched. They were able to acquire new customers through promotions. However, they struggled with keeping customers to use their service. After testing in several ways, they found a way to keep their customers from using their service, which was offering customers unlimited DVD rentals without due dates, late fees, or monthly rental limits. And then they started a subscription service in 1999. In 2000, they started a personalized movie recommendation system using customers' rating on the past title to accurately predict future choices. In 2007, they started an online streaming service which allowed users to instantly watch series and films. The now familiar Netflix original content was introduced in 2013. Also, the profile and my list features debuted on streaming. In 2016, Netflix expanded to 130 new countries, bringing the services to customers in more than 190 countries and 21 languages around the world. The download features has been added for offline and on-the-go viewing. Finally, Netflix membership surpasses 200 million this year. Next, I'm going to talk about the transition of Netflix recommender system. There are three keywords to introduce Netflix recommender system. The first keyword is Cinematch. Before Netflix devised Cinematch, their recommender system was a content-based recommendation that used available data such as movie genre, actors, and release year, but it did not give them a satisfactory recommendation. This is because even if the genre and actors are similar, there are many cases where the audience is completely different. So they created a collaborative filtering system which was used by Amazon. As a result, they created Cinematch. It predicts customers' preference using customer rating, rated movie, and current queue. It had a long run and proved to fairly successful at predicting movies that customers would like. However, they believe there is a better way to improve their recommender system. To improve their recommender system, they announced a machine learning and data mining competition in 2006. They offered $1 million to whoever improved the accuracy of Cinematch by 10%. Over 40,000 teams from 186 different countries had entered the contest. A year into the competition, one of the teams won the first progress prize with an 8.43% improvement. They reported more than 2,000 hours of work in order to come up with a final combination of 107 algorithms that gave them this prize. Finally, the team called Belcourt's pragmatic chaos achieved over 10% improvement. However, the algorithm which achieved over 10% improvement were not used because Netflix started an online streaming services in 2007. It had changed both the way users interact with the service and the type of data available to use in Netflix algorithms. In terms of renting DVDs, they focused on helping customers fill their queue with titles to receive in the mail over the coming days and weeks. Selection is distant in time from viewing. Customers select carefully because exchanging a DVD for another takes more than a day, so that they get no feedback during viewing. However, for streaming, customers are looking for something great to watch right now, so that customers can sample a few videos before settling on one. Customers can consume several in one session, and they can observe viewing statistics such as whether a video was watched fully or only partially. Lastly, I will introduce the example of the recommendation of Netflix. The first example is a personalized homepage. As you can see, since I have watched a lot of Korean dramas, my homepage is filled with Korean dramas. It consists of a group of videos arranged in horizontal rows. Each row has a title that conveys the intended meaningful connection between the videos in the group. Most of Netflix personalization is based on the way they select the rows, how they determine what item to include in them, and in what order to place those items. So let's take a look at my Netflix homepage again. I can recognize what kind of content is displayed easily because each row has a title and it helps me to find what I am interested in quickly. Another example of recommendation is artwork personalization. Netflix creates not only a personalized homepage, but also artwork. This is the example of a series of drama called Stranger Things. Since given the numerous diversity in tastes and preferences, Netflix considered that it would be better if they could find the best artwork for each of their customers to highlight the aspect of the title that are specifically relevant to them. This is the example of the same movie which has different artwork depending on customers' preferences. On the left are 3 titles a customer watched in the past. To the right of the arrow is the artwork that a customer would get for a particular movie that Netflix recommends for them. If someone who has watched many romantic movies, Netflix displays artwork which contains couples to emphasize that this is a romantic movie. Whereas a customer who has watched many comedies might be drawn to the movie if the artwork contains a comedian. This is another example of artwork. Netflix changes artwork depending on customers' preferences for the actor and actress. A customer who watches many movies features Uma Thurman would like to respond positively to the artwork for Pulp Fiction that contains Uma. Meanwhile, a fan of John Travolta may be more interested in watching Pulp Fiction if the artwork features John. As we have seen, Netflix has many different ways to recommend content to their customers, and it is at the core of their products. They consider that it is important to provide their customers with personalized suggestions to reduce the amount of time and frustration to find great content to watch. That is why they still continue to improve their recommender system. Let's recap quickly. The recommender system helps users to identify worthwhile products or services for them from several options. And there are two ways of recommendation. One is personalized recommendation. The other is non-personalized recommendation. Also, there are two ways of retrieving users' data. One is explicit feedback, such as review, interviews, surveys, and so on. The other way is implicit feedback, such as purchase history, watching history, reading history, and so on. Lastly, there are basically two ways of predicting user preference, which are content-based filtering system and collaborative filtering system. I hope this presentation gave you a better insight into the world of recommender systems. Thank you for listening.